Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you isn't feel-good motivation, and it isn't some soft attempt to inspire you. This is a warning, a cold, realistic truth most people never face until it's too late. Life doesn't collapse all at once. It breaks in quiet, subtle fractures. The dishes you leave for tomorrow, the goals you push to next week. The chaos you pretend isn't growing. Every small mess, every unfinished task, every ignored responsibility. They gather, they multiply, they sharpen themselves against you. And while you sleep peacefully, thinking everything is fine, life is already drawing the lines of your downfall. Here's the truth. If you don't impose order on your life, chaos will do it for you. And chaos has no mercy. This is Machiavellian psychology. A man who cannot rule his own environment, cannot rule anything. Power begins with structure. Dominance begins with discipline. Control begins with the willingness to force yourself to do what your weaker self avoids. So before we go any deeper, I want you to anchor this inside your mind. Comment this right now. Order is my power. Section 1. The strategy. If you want to survive this world, and not just survive, but rise, you must understand something most people never grasp. Your life will not improve by accident. It improves by design, by force, by the deliberate restructuring of your world, according to your will. This is where Machiavellian psychology becomes your greatest weapon, because the man who organizes his life with intention becomes a man who cannot be manipulated, distracted, or broken. Look around you. Most people live in mental chaos, scattered focus, weak habits, no direction. They wonder why nothing changes, yet they refuse to build the structure that change requires. But you're here for something different. You're here to become a man who shapes his reality, not one who gets crushed by it. Organization is not about cleaning your room. It's about building a fortress around your mind, a system that protects your energy, a structure that eliminates weakness, a routine that sharpens your discipline like a blade. And before we move on, I want you to reaffirm your commitment. Comment this: I control my world. Section 2. The ruthless reset. There comes a moment in every man's life where he must stop pretending and confront the truth with ruthless honesty. Your habits, your environment, your mindset, your entire life structure, all of it must be examined with the cold precision of a strategist. Because here's the reality most people run from. You cannot build a powerful life on top of weak foundations. You cannot rise while living inside the same chaos that keeps dragging you down. You cannot become untouchable while your daily life is still cluttered, disorganized, and draining your strength. This is your ruthless reset, a Machiavellian reshaping of everything around you. You eliminate distractions. You cut off anything that weakens your focus. You remove people who drain your energy. You rebuild your environment so it serves you, not the other way around. Understand this. Powerful men don't wait for clarity. They create clarity. They don't hope for discipline. They engineer discipline. They don't ask for permission. They design their life so boldly that the world either steps aside or gets crushed under the momentum. Before we continue, lock this into your mind. Comment this: I rebuild without mercy. Section 3. The discipline of a dangerous mind. If you want to rise above average men, above the noise, above the weakness that dominates this world, you must develop something rare. Something feared, something that separates the powerful from the powerless. The discipline of a dangerous mind. A dangerous mind is not chaotic. It is not emotional. It is not easily shaken. It is controlled, calculated, structured, and brutally self-directed. This is the psychology Machiavelli understood. A man who governs himself with discipline becomes immune to the manipulation of others. Most people live as slaves to their impulses. They wake up without purpose. They drift through the day. They react instead of thinking. They seek comfort instead of strength. They are predictable, and predictable men are easy to control. But you are here to become something different. Something other men studied but cannot imitate. To build this kind of discipline, you must force your life into order. Clear your space, clear your schedule, Clear your mind. Structure your days like a strategist organizing a battlefield. Every decision, every habit, every action must serve your higher purpose. Because when your mind becomes organized, your life becomes unstoppable. A dangerous mind is built from routines that sharpen you, waking early with intention, training your body like a weapon, removing distractions without negotiation, working on your craft with relentless focus. Not sometimes, not when you feel like it, every day. You become the type of man who moves with clarity, speaks with precision, and acts with purpose. A man impossible to sway, impossible to break, impossible to control. Before we continue, comment this to claim the mindset, "My discipline makes me dangerous." Section 4. The elimination of weakness. Weakness doesn't disappear on its own. It hides, it waits, it grows in silence until it becomes strong enough to strangle everything you could have been. That is why a man who seeks power must become merciless with the weaknesses inside his own life. Not emotional, not forgiving, not gentle, merciless. Machiavelli understood something most men today refuse to accept. A ruler who cannot control his own flaws, cannot control anything outside himself. And in modern life, the same principle applies. If you want strength, if you want clarity, if you want an unshakable mind, you must wage war against the parts of you that keep you small. Start with your habits, every habit that weakens you. Laziness, distraction, addiction to comfort, emotional reactions, inconsistency must be hunted down and removed like a threat. Weak habits produce weak outcomes. Weak outcomes create a weak life, and a weak life becomes a prison. Next, look at your environment. The clutter in your room, the chaos on your desk, the noise in your surroundings. These are not small problems. They are psychological traps designed to keep you unfocused and disorganized. A powerful man builds an environment that reflects his direction, not his confusion. Then, confront the people around you. Some people drain your ambition. Some people distract you. Some weaken your discipline. They may be familiar, they may be comfortable, but comfort is often the enemy of evolution. A man becoming powerful must surround himself with energy that elevates him, not energy that drags him into mediocrity. Finally, look inward. Your fears, your insecurities, your doubts. These internal enemies must be exposed, understood, and dismantled. Because the man who conquers his inner world becomes untouchable in the outer world. And understand this, eliminating weakness is not about becoming cold, cruel, or heartless. It is about becoming strategic, purposeful, unbreakable. When you remove weakness from your life, you make space for power. When you eliminate chaos, you create clarity. When you destroy the old version of yourself, you give birth to the man you were meant to become. Before we continue, anchor this truth into your identity. Comment this: I eliminate weakness without hesitation. Section 5. The architecture of an unbreakable life. There is a reason most men never rise. A reason most remain average, unfocused, overwhelmed, and trapped in cycles they never escape. It's not because they lack potential. It's not because they lack intelligence. It's because they never take the time to build their life with intention. They drift, they react, they wander without a blueprint. And a man without a blueprint becomes a man without power. If you want to become unbreakable, you must become an architect, a designer of your own existence. Every system, every habit, every routine, every standard must be engineered to support the highest version of you. This is the Machiavellian approach to power. Never leave your life to luck. Never leave your growth to chance. Never leave your future in the hands of fate. You construct it, you mold it, you shape it into something sharp, calculated, and unstoppable. Start with your time. Time is the greatest currency a man possesses, and most men spend it like fools. Scrolling, drifting, chasing temporary highs, indulging in meaningless distractions. A powerful man treats time like a weapon. He slices away everything that wastes it. He assigns purpose to every hour. He builds routines that sharpen his mind, strengthen his body, and fortify his spirit. Next, build your mental architecture. Your thoughts must be disciplined. Your emotions must be controlled. Your reactions must be strategic. A man who reacts emotionally becomes easy to manipulate. But a man who responds with calculation becomes untouchable. You train your mind to slow down, to observe, to analyze. You remove impulsive behavior and replace it with tactical judgment. This is how kings think. This is how conquerors rise. Then comes your physical architecture. A weak body weakens the mind. A neglected body creates a neglected life. When you train your body, you train discipline, structure, and internal dominance. Every rep, every drop of sweat, every session of controlled discomfort is a reminder that you command yourself, that your body obeys, that your will is stronger than laziness. Now examine your daily systems, your finances, your diet, your sleep, your workflow, your environment. Nothing should be random, nothing should be accidental, nothing should be left to chaos. You design systems that work even on your worst days, systems that support you when motivation leaves, systems that keep you aligned with your mission. Finally, build your identity, the internal architecture that defines how you walk, speak, think, and operate. You declare new standards. You eliminate excuses. You step into the role of a man who doesn't break, doesn't fold, doesn't retreat. A man who stands firm even when the world attempts to crush him. Because when your life is built like a fortress, pressure cannot break you. Distraction cannot weaken you. Chaos cannot infiltrate you. Before we continue, claim this evolution. Comment this: my life is a fortress. Section 6. The power of controlled isolation. There is a phase every powerful man must enter. If he intends to rise beyond the reach of ordinary minds, it is not pleasant, it is not comfortable, it is not socially accepted, but it is necessary and unavoidable for anyone who seeks true transformation. This phase is controlled isolation, not loneliness, not retreat, not running away from the world, but choosing deliberately and strategically to step back from the noise, the people, the environments, the influences that dilute your strength and scatter your focus. Controlled isolation is where men sharpen themselves. It is the dark room where identity is forged. It is the mental battlefield where discipline replaces distraction, where purpose replaces confusion, where clarity replaces chaos. Most men never enter this phase. They cling to social validation. They fear being alone with their thoughts. They run from silence because silence exposes truth. And truth demands change. But understand this: no man becomes powerful in the presence of constant noise. No man builds a sharp mind while surrounded by weak ones. No man discovers his mission while drowning in pointless conversations, empty entertainment, and shallow connections. The Machiavellian mind knows when to withdraw, not out of fear, but out of strategy. A ruler does not stand in the marketplace when he needs to think like a king. A warrior does not sit in a crowd when he needs to forge his blade. A leader does not absorb the distractions of the masses when he is preparing for a higher purpose. Controlled isolation teaches you to trust yourself, your judgment, your decisions, your instincts. It removes the crutches. It reveals the truth about your strengths and your weaknesses, without the noise of other people's opinions. This is where your standards rise, where your discipline strengthens, where you detach from the trivial and connect with the essential, where you finally separate who you were from who you are becoming. During this phase, your habits become sharper, your thinking becomes cleaner, your emotions become steadier, your priorities restructure themselves around a higher mission. You begin to see which relationships truly support your growth and which merely anchor you to mediocrity. You start recognizing which activities feed your power and which drain it. You distinguish between what is necessary and what is noise. And something else happens, something subtle but undeniable. People start noticing your absence, and that absence creates value, mystery, respect. The more you focus on strengthening your inner world, the more the outer world begins to shift around you. Because controlled isolation doesn't distance you from the world, it prepares you to dominate it. This period is where you develop the traits that make you untouchable: self-respect, self-direction, self-discipline, self-reliance. When you no longer need approval, you become immune to manipulation. When you no longer depend on company to feel whole, you become impossible to control. When you become enough for yourself, you become powerful in every room you enter. And when you emerge from controlled isolation, you emerge different. sharper, calmer, more strategic, more focused, more dangerous. This is not withdrawal. This is rebuilding. This is not weakness. This is preparation. This is not isolation. This is evolution. Before we continue to the next phase, command your identity by commenting, "My solitude builds my power." Section 7. The ascension through relentless self-mastery. There comes a stage in a man's rise when external order is no longer enough. Your room is clean, your time is structured, your habits are aligned, your environment supports your goals, your isolation has sharpened your identity. But this is only the foundation, the groundwork for something far greater. Now you enter the phase of relentless self-mastery. This is the stage where average men stop because they believe discipline alone is the destination. They think routine is the pinnacle. They worship consistency as if it is the final form of greatness. But you are not here to be average. You are here to be exceptional. You are here to ascend beyond the limits of ordinary minds. You are here to become the type of man who does not just follow discipline, but commands it, shapes it, wields it like a weapon. Self-mastery begins where discipline ends. It is not about forcing yourself to act. It is about becoming the kind of man for whom powerful action is the default, the natural state, the automatic instinct. Most men live in conflict with themselves. They know what they should do, yet they negotiate, hesitate, postpone, avoid. They are prisoners of their impulses, slaves to their moods, followers of comfort disguised as logic. This is why they remain predictable, fragile, and forgettable. But self-mastery breaks this cycle. It destroys negotiation. It dissolves hesitation. It eliminates emotional interference. Your internal world becomes organized, disciplined, hierarchical, strategic. Machiavellian psychology teaches one central truth. A man who conquers himself cannot be conquered by anyone else. Self-mastery is that conquest. It is the war waged against your lower nature, your emotional reactions, your impulses, your excuses. You do not suppress them, you command them, you shape them to your will. This is where awareness becomes power. You study your patterns, you analyze your triggers, you understand your reactions. You observe your mind as a strategist observes an enemy army. Not with fear, but with calculated precision. You begin to move differently. Not reactively, but tactically. Not emotionally, but deliberately. Not impulsively, but with purpose, sharpened by clarity. Self-mastery is not about being perfect. It is about being in control, especially when conditions are not ideal. Anyone can be disciplined on a good day. Anyone can be focused when life is easy. But a powerful man remains disciplined when tired, focused when overwhelmed, strategic when pressured, and calm when everything around him is falling apart. That is what makes him unbreakable. This stage also requires you to develop internal sovereignty. You stop seeking validation. You stop explaining yourself. You stop adjusting your identity to fit the expectations of weaker minds. Your self-worth becomes self-generated. Your confidence becomes self-sustained. Your direction becomes self-created. This is how kings walk. This is how leaders rise. This is how men become forces of nature. And something extraordinary begins to happen. Every area of your life starts aligning with your new identity. Your conversations change, your opportunities expand, your standards rise, your presence strengthens. People begin to treat you differently, not because you demanded respect, but because your self-mastery radiates it. Self-mastery also sharpens your ability to remain silent. Silence becomes a tool, a weapon, a shield. Where others rush to speak, you observe. Where others react from emotion, you respond from strategy. Where others reveal their thoughts freely, you reveal nothing unless it serves a purpose. This controlled presence is intimidating. Men feel it. Women sense it. Your energy becomes steady, grounded, dominant. Not loud, not aggressive, but absolute. And the most dangerous part? It becomes effortless. Self-mastery transforms you from someone who tries into someone who embodies. Discipline becomes identity. Focus becomes instinct. Strength becomes nature. Power becomes your resting state. Before we continue to the next evolution, claim this phase fully and intentionally. Comment this: I master myself completely. Section 8. the cold transformation into power. There is a point in a man's evolution when discipline, structure, and self-mastery begin to merge into something far more potent, something colder, sharper, more controlled. This is the moment when you stop simply improving yourself and start transforming yourself. Not into a better man, but into a more powerful one. Most people talk about transformation as if it is a warm, inspiring, comforting process. They imagine growth filled with excitement and positivity, but real transformation, the kind that makes you formidable, is nothing like that. True transformation is cold, it is uncomfortable, it is ruthless. It demands that you carve away the weaker layers of your identity with precision and brutality. A powerful man does not rise through comfort, he rises through controlled destruction. The destruction of old habits, old beliefs, old emotional patterns, old versions of himself that no longer serve his mission. This is what Machiavelli understood about power. A man must be willing to strip himself down, to rebuild in a form fit for leadership and dominance. Transformation is not gentle, it is a strategic rebirth. You begin by detaching from the emotional narratives that once controlled you. Emotions used to pull you in every direction. They clouded your decisions, weakened your focus, and slowed your progress. But now you treat emotions differently, not as commands, but as signals. Information, data, something to analyze, not obey. This emotional detachment is not numbness. It is power. It is the ability to remain calm when others panic, to stay focused when others become overwhelmed, to remain strategic when others collapse under pressure. And in this cold emotional clarity, your mind becomes sharper than ever before. You start thinking several moves ahead. You begin to see patterns others overlook. You stop reacting to life and start directing life. This is when people begin to perceive something different in you, a shift in your presence, a quiet intensity. They can't quite explain. You don't need to speak loudly. You don't need to prove anything. Your energy speaks for you. Next comes the transformation of your relationships. This is where many men fall, because they fear losing people they've known for years. But understand, powerful transformation always demands sacrifices. Some people cannot accompany you into your next chapter because they are tied to who you used to be. They are comfortable with your old identity, your old patterns, your old limitations. If you remain among them, you will remain as them. So you begin to detach, not with anger, not with bitterness, not with drama, but with quiet finality. You simply elevate beyond their reach. You move differently. You speak differently. You think differently. And eventually the connection fades because you are no longer the man they once knew. In this phase, solitude becomes a strategic advantage. Silence becomes your ally. Focus becomes your fortress. From here, your behaviors evolve dramatically. Your work ethic sharpens. You stop tolerating chaos from yourself or others. You remove anything that disrupts your mission. Your standards become unshakable. And because your standards rise, your life rises with them. You no longer chase pleasure. You chase progress. You no longer waste time. You weaponize time. You no longer seek acceptance. You enforce boundaries. You no longer depend on others. You depend on your ability to command yourself. This is where the true transformation takes place. You stop being a man driven by the external world and become a man driven entirely from within. You begin to see life as a battlefield, not one to fear, but one to dominate. Every challenge becomes a training ground. Every setback becomes an opportunity for refinement. Every obstacle becomes a mirror, revealing where you need to strengthen your internal armor. And slowly, you realize something profound. The world stops intimidating you. Problems stop overwhelming you. People stop controlling you. Stress stops breaking you. Because you have evolved into a man who responds with power, not panic. This transformation changes your energy, your posture, your voice, your presence. You carry yourself like a man who has conquered himself and therefore cannot be conquered by life. This is not arrogance. This is not ego. This is earned confidence. The kind that comes from discipline, clarity, and cold self-control. And because you operate with this level of internal power, your external world begins to reorganize around you. Opportunities appear, respect increases, boundaries strengthen. Weak people avoid you, Strong people gravitate toward you. Life bends in the direction of your identity. This is the cold transformation into power, the ascension that turns a disciplined man into an unmovable force. Before we continue, claim this identity fully by commenting, "I transform into power itself." Section 9. The silent domination of the world. There is a phase in your rise where power stops being something you chase and becomes something you radiate, a presence, an energy, a force that enters the room before you do, speaks before you open your mouth, and influences others without a single word. This phase is called silent domination, the highest expression of power through calmness, discipline, restraint, and precision. It is the point where your internal evolution begins shaping your external reality in ways most men can't understand, let alone replicate. Silent domination is not loud. It is not theatrical. It is not boastful. The men who brag are rarely the men who hold real power. They speak because they need validation. They posture because they crave approval. They shout because they fear being unnoticed. But you operate differently now. You have trained yourself in isolation. You have eliminated weakness. You have built your identity, forged your discipline, and shaped your mindset into something sharp and unbreakable. Your power is internal, not external. And because it is internal, no one can take it from you. This is where dominance becomes silent. In this stage, you learn to observe more than you speak. You study people, their tone, their posture, their motives, their weaknesses, their tells. You begin noticing details others miss, the insecurity behind someone's overconfidence, the hesitation behind their aggression, the fear behind their arrogance. Every interaction becomes information. Every conversation becomes data. Every environment becomes a map of leverage. This is dark psychology used not for cruelty, but for awareness, for precision, for strategic advantage. Silent domination allows you to predict outcomes before they happen. You sense energy shifts. You recognize manipulation attempts before they begin. You know who to avoid, who to learn from, who to outmaneuver. You no longer react to people. You read them. And because fewer words now carry more meaning, your presence becomes heavier. When you speak, people listen. When you move, people notice. When you decide, people follow. This is power without effort. The world responds differently to a man who has mastered this stage. People sense your steadiness, the stability in your voice, the calmness in your demeanor, the certainty in your decisions. You don't compete with anyone. You simply operate at a level where competition becomes irrelevant. Your silence becomes intimidating. Not because you are trying to intimidate, but because silence reveals a level of control most men lack. It signals that you don't need approval. You don't need attention. You don't need validation. You are centered within yourself. And that kind of self-possession is rare. So rare that people feel it the moment they meet you. In this phase, power becomes a lifestyle. You structure your day with intention. You protect your time like a territory. You guard your energy like a resource. You execute plans with precision and detachment. There is no rushing, no emotional spirals, no chaos. You move like a man who knows exactly what he is building. This calm, controlled approach to life creates an aura around you. An aura that others interpret as confidence, even dominance. But in reality, it is simply the result of alignment. Your habits, your thoughts, your actions, your goals, all pulling in the same direction. You no longer waste time arguing. You no longer justify yourself. You no longer explain your choices to those who haven't earned the right to question you. Your standards are set. Your boundaries are fixed. Your direction is secured. Silent domination begins internally, but its effects ripple outward. People start respecting you more. Not because you demanded respect, but because they sense it in your posture, your tone, your discipline, your consistency. Weak people avoid challenging you. Strong people recognize you as an equal, sometimes even a superior. Opportunities align with your identity. Doors open that once stayed shut. The world rearranges itself around your mindset. You begin to notice that you no longer take anything personally. You see every situation from a place of clarity, not emotion. You respond rationally, not impulsively. You understand that power comes from perspective, and perspective comes from inner stability. At this stage, you become someone others rely on, not because you want them to, but because your steadiness becomes invaluable in a chaotic world. Your presence calms storms. Your decisions cut through confusion. Your discipline inspires silently. Your confidence lifts others without trying. But here is the truth. Silent domination is not about controlling people. It is about controlling yourself so thoroughly that the world reacts to your stability. When you reach this phase, very little can shake you. Not stress, not pressure, not conflict, not challenges. You have become the calm center of your own universe, and everything around you bends to that calmness. This is the level where kings are formed, where leaders rise, where warriors become legends, where the disciplined transform into the unstoppable. Before we move to the final transformation, cement this identity by commenting, "I dominate the world through silence." Section 10. The final shift into untouchability. There comes a moment in your transformation when everything you've built, the discipline, the structure, the isolation, the self-mastery, the silent dominance, finally merges into one unshakable identity. This is the moment you cross the line from becoming stronger to becoming untouchable. Untouchable does not mean invincible. It does not mean perfect. It does not mean emotionless. It means this: nothing outside you holds power over you anymore. People's opinions lose their grip. Pressure no longer rattles you. Fear no longer guides you. Failure no longer stops you. Chaos no longer controls you. You become a man who moves with purpose, responds with clarity, thinks with calculation, and walks with a presence carved from discipline and self-respect. Your world changes because you changed. Your results sharpen because your mind sharpened. Your relationships shift because your standards shifted. Every part of your life begins to reflect the man you have become. This is where the Machiavellian mindset evolves. It stops being strategy and becomes identity. You no longer practice strength, you embody it. You no longer attempt discipline, you breathe it. You no longer chase power, you carry it. People feel your boundaries without you having to announce them. They sense your confidence without you needing to prove it. They notice your focus without you showing it. You operate in silence, yet your results speak louder than any words ever could. At this stage, the world stops overwhelming you because you now know how to position yourself above it. Life isn't happening to you anymore. Life is happening around you, while you remain centered, grounded, and unmoved. This is the final shift. The shift into the man who does not break, does not fold, does not kneel. The man who remains firm even when everything around him shakes. The man who cannot be discouraged, cannot be manipulated, cannot be steered off his path. This is untouchability. Not loud, not aggressive, and not arrogant, just absolute internal authority. And this is where your journey evolves into a mission to protect the man you've built, to maintain the standards you've set, to guard the discipline you've earned, to preserve the identity you fought to create. Before you move forward, declare your final commitment. In the comments, "I am untouchable." And if this monologue awakens something in you, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the evolution waiting for you on Mental Fort.